InnerWhisper channel.
Why you are not who you think you are. From the moment we are born, we begin to ask, consciously or unconsciously, the same questions. Who am I? What makes me? Why do I feel joy one moment and pain the next? Why do I change, even when I want to stay the same? These questions lie at the heart of human existence, and they have puzzled philosophers, scientists, and seekers of truth for thousands of years. Buddhism approaches these questions not by giving abstract theories, but by inviting us to look directly into our own experience. The Buddha taught that what we call a self, this I, that we cling to so tightly, is not a permanent, solid entity. Instead, it is a flowing process, a collection of parts, always shifting, always in motion. He called these parts the Five Aggregates, or in the ancient language, the five skandhas: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. At first, this teaching might sound unfamiliar, maybe even unsettling. After all, we grow up in a culture that tells us to find ourselves to be true to ourselves, and to define our identity as something solid and lasting. We believe that deep inside there is a core me that never changes. But Buddhism turns that assumption upside down. It tells us, look closely, and you will see that what you call you is not one unchanging thing, but a river of processes. And just as a river is never the same from one moment to the next, so too the self you cling to is never fixed. This realization is not meant to make us afraid, it is meant to set us free. Let us begin with form, the first aggregate. Form refers to the physical body, the skin, the bones, the organs, the senses. It includes everything material, everything that can be touched and seen. When you look in the mirrors, you see your form. When you feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, or the ache in your back after a long day, you are experiencing form. Many of us mistake this form for our entire identity. We identify with how we look, our weight, our age, our skin color, our appearance. In modern culture, especially in America, where images and appearances are emphasized every day, people suffer greatly because they believe their body defines who they are. But Buddhism gently reminds us, your body is not you. It is part of you, yes, but it is not the whole of you. And it is not permanent. It changes constantly. The child's body becomes the adults becomes the elders. Cells are born and die every moment. To cling to the body as if it could stay the same is to invite suffering. To accept its impermanence is to begin to taste peace. Then comes feeling, the second aggregate. Feelings are not just emotions like happiness or sadness. They are every basic tone of experience, whether pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Imagine biting into your favorite food. The delight you feel is a pleasant feeling. Imagine stubbing your toe. The sharp pain is an unpleasant feeling. Imagine walking down the street without noticing much. That is a neutral feeling. We live so much of our lives chasing pleasant feelings and running from unpleasant ones. We tell ourselves, I must always be happy. I must avoid pain at all costs, and so we create endless tension. But the Buddha showed us that feelings arise and pass like clouds in the sky. They are not permanent, not solid, not a reliable foundation for our identity. When you realize this, you no longer cling so tightly. You enjoy happiness when it comes, but you don't grasp it desperately. You acknowledge pain when it arrives, but you don't let it control your life. You see feelings for what they are, temporary visitors. The third aggregate is perception. Perception is the way we recognize and label the world around us. When you see a tree, your mind recognizes it as tree. When you hear a song, your mind says music. Perceptions are incredibly powerful because they shape our entire understanding of reality. Yet, perceptions are also limited and often wrong. Two people can look at the same situation and perceive it completely differently. One may see kindness, the other may see insult. One may see opportunity, the other may see threat. And yet both are convinced their perception is the truth. When we forget that perceptions are just mental labels, we suffer. But when we see that perceptions are part of this ever-shifting collection of processes, we begin to let go. We learn to question our assumptions, to open our minds, and to see reality with more clarity. The fourth aggregate is mental formations. This includes our thoughts, habits, emotions, intentions, and all the countless patterns of the mind. When anger arises, that is a mental formation. When compassion arises, that is also a mental formation. They are like seeds in the soil of the mind. Depending on which seeds we water, different formations will grow stronger. If we constantly water anger, resentment, and fear, then these formations will dominate our life. But if we water love, patience, and understanding, then those will grow instead. Mental formations remind us that we have a choice. We may not control what feelings arise in the moment, but we can train ourselves to nurture wholesome mental patterns. And when we see these formations as part of the flow of the aggregates, we stop identifying with them as me or mine. We see them as processes that arise, stay for a while, and pass away. Finally, there is consciousness, the fifth aggregate. Consciousness is the basic awareness that underlies our experience. It is the knowing of seeing, the knowing of hearing, the knowing of feeling. Consciousness is like a stream, constantly flowing. It depends on the other aggregates to function. Without form, without senses, without perception, consciousness cannot exist as we know it. Many of us believe consciousness is a fixed soul, an unchanging essence. But Buddhism teaches us that consciousness, too, is impermanent, conditioned, and ever-changing. It arises in dependence on causes and conditions, just like everything else. When we put these five together, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, we get what we commonly call a person. but the Buddha taught that this person is not a permanent self. It is a combination of these aggregates, always changing, always in motion. The tragedy is that we cling to them as if they were solid, as if they could provide lasting security. We cling to our body as if it would never age, to our feelings as if they would never change, to our perceptions as if they were always right, to our thoughts as if they defined us, to our consciousness as if it were eternal. And in that clinging, we suffer. But the moment we begin to see the truth that the self is a process, not a thing, we begin to breathe more freely. Imagine holding tightly to a handful of sand. The harder you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. This is what happens when we cling to the aggregates. But when we open our hands, when we let go, the sand rests gently in our palm. In the same way, when we stop clinging to the self, life becomes lighter. We begin to experience freedom. We see that we are not a fixed identity, but a living process, a dance of elements. And in this dance, there is space for compassion, for peace, for joy. This is only the beginning of the teaching. The five aggregates are not just philosophical ideas, they are practical tools. They give us a map of our experience, a way to observe what is happening inside us, and a way to free ourselves from suffering. They invite us to look deeply, not to believe blindly. And as we look, we start to see. The self is not a prison, it is a flow. And in that flow, there is room to let go, to heal, and to awaken. When we begin to look more closely at the five aggregates, we realize they are not distant, abstract concepts. They are the very fabric of our daily lives. Each moment of our existence is shaped by them, yet most of the time we do not see clearly how they operate. To understand them is to understand ourselves more deeply, and to understand ourselves more deeply is to free ourselves from much of the unnecessary suffering we carry. Let us walk through each aggregate in detail and see how it shows up in the life you live right now. Take form. For example, the body. For many people in modern society, the body is a source of constant anxiety. The endless pressure to look young, slim, strong, attractive advertising and social media feed this obsession every day. A teenager scrolling through Instagram compares their body to photoshopped images of celebrities and influencers and feels inadequate. An older adult looks in the mirror, noticing new wrinkles or gray hairs, and feels fear about aging. A person recovering from illness feels betrayed by their body, wondering why it no longer serves them the way it once did. We cling to the body as if it should always be under our control, as if it should stay perfect. But the truth is, the body is not stable. It is constantly changing, constantly subject to conditions beyond our control. To see the body as just one aggregate among others temporary, fragile, not truly me is to lighten the burden. It does not mean we neglect our health. On the contrary, we care for the body with respect, but we stop demanding that it provide eternal security. We stop mistaking it for who we are. Now look at feelings. Feelings are so quick, so subtle, yet they drive much of our behavior. Imagine the surge of joy when someone likes your post online. Imagine the sting of rejection when a text goes unanswered. Imagine the comfort of a warm bed on a cold morning. Imagine the discomfort of a tense conversation at work. Each of these moments carries a feeling pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Our entire consumer culture is built on manipulating these feelings, convincing us that happiness lies in chasing one pleasant sensation after another. Buy this, eat this, watch this, and you'll feel good. Avoid that, ignore that, escape from that, and you won't feel bad. But the Buddha taught us that feelings are not under our control. They arise and pass away, like ripples on waters. When we cling to them, when we chase pleasure desperately, or run from pain fearfully, we suffer. When we see them for what they are, temporary waves, we learn to ride them with balance. We can enjoy pleasant feelings without becoming enslaved by them. We can endure unpleasant feelings without despairing. And we can find peace even in the neutral moments, the ordinary spaces in between. Then there is perception. Perception is not just seeing or hearing. It is the mental labeling that turns raw experience into meaning. Think of two people sitting in traffic. One perceives the situation as intolerable. This is awful. I'm wasting my life. I can't stand this. Their blood pressure rises. Their stress increases. The other perceives the same traffic as an opportunity. I have time to breathe, to listen to music, to reflect. The situation is the same, but the perception is different, and so the experience of suffering is different. Perception shapes our reality. Yet perceptions are not ultimate truth. They are conditioned, shaped by past experiences, culture, expectations. When we cling to perceptions as if they were absolute, we argue, we fight, we suffer. I'm right, you're wrong. My view is truth, yours is false. But when we see perceptions as one of the aggregates, impermanent, conditioned, changing, we gain humility. We begin to question. Maybe my view is limited. Maybe there is more than one way to see this. This humility opens the door to compassion, because we recognize that others perceive differently, not because they are evil, but because their minds are conditioned differently. To loosen our grip on perceptions is to loosen our grip on conflict. Mental formations, the fourth aggregate, may be the most challenging to understand, yet they are the most transformative. These are the habits of mind, the emotional tendencies, the seeds of thought and reaction that shape how we live. Think of someone who has been hurt many times. They may carry a formation of suspicion, always expecting betrayal. Another person, nurtured in kindness, may carry a formation of trust, seeing good in others. Mental formations include anger, jealousy, greed, but also generosity, patience, and love. They are countless, like seeds stored in the soil of our consciousness. And just as a gardener chooses which seeds to water, we too can choose. This is where practice becomes alive. If you constantly water seeds of resentment by replaying old arguments in your mind, those formations grow strong. If you water seeds of gratitude by noticing small blessings each day, those formations grow strong instead. Mental formations show us that while we cannot control every thought or emotion that arises, we can cultivate the conditions for wholesome states to thrive. And when we remember that these formations are aggregates impermanent, not fixed, we stop identifying with them. I am angry becomes anger is present. I am depressed becomes a depressive formation. Is here this small shift in language opens a great space of freedom. We are no longer prisoners of our mental patterns. We are gardeners of them. Finally, consciousness. Consciousness is the most subtle of the aggregates, yet it is what makes all the others possible. Without consciousness, there is no experience. But consciousness itself is not a solid entity, it is a stream, a series of moments of awareness arising and passing. Neuroscience today supports this insight, showing that what we call consciousness is not one fixed thing, but a process dependent on brain activity, sensory input, and countless conditions. We often believe consciousness is the soul, the permanent self that endures forever. But Buddhism challenges us to look closely. Is your consciousness the same now as it was when you were 5 years old? Is it the same when you are angry, when you are joyful, when you are asleep, when you are awake? Consciousness shifts constantly. To see this is to loosen the grip of the idea of a permanent self. It is not meant to deny our humanity. It is meant to reveal the truth of our humanity. That we are dynamic, living processes, not static entities. When we put all five together, we see that what we call I is a bundle of processes: body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, each interdependent, each changing, each without lasting essence. This can feel unsettling at first. If there is no fixed self, who am I? But if we stay with this question, if we look deeply, we discover a liberation hidden within it. Because if the self is not fixed, then we are not trapped. We are not condemned to always be angry, always be afraid, always be broken. We are free to change. We are free to grow. We are free to let go. The five aggregates do not define us. They describe the processes we can understand and work with. And when we understand them, we find a path toward peace. If all of this sounds philosophical, let's bring it back to daily life. How can the understanding of the five aggregates actually help us live better? How can it reduce our suffering and increase our happiness? The answer begins with awareness. Every time you pause and notice, this is just the body. This is just a feeling. This is just a perception. You create space between yourself and the experience. That space is freedom. Imagine you are criticized at work. Instantly, unpleasant feelings arise. Your perception may label it as an attack. Your mental formations may stir up defensiveness or anger. Consciousness is filled with stress. But if you can step back and remember, this is the aggregates at work, you realize you have a choice. You don't have to explode. You don't have to collapse. You can breathe, see the process, and respond with wisdom instead of habit. That is the power of understanding. Think about how this applies to relationships. So many arguments come from misperception, seeing the other person through the lens of your own conditioned views. By remembering that perceptions are not reality, you become more patient. You ask, maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture. Maybe their feelings are shaped by causes I don't understand. This shift softens the heart. It creates compassion where there once was blame. Consider how it helps with stress. When the body aches, when the mind is restless, when feelings overwhelm, you no longer say, "This is me. I am broken." Instead, you say, "This is the body. This is a formation. This is a passing state. It may still be painful, but it is less heavy." You carry it with wisdom instead of despair. And sometimes, that simple recognition transforms suffering into strength. The five aggregates also remind us not to cling to pleasure. Think about happiness in America today. So often it's tied to buying more, achieving more, looking better. But pleasure fades. The vacation ends. The car gets old. The praise is forgotten. If your sense of self is built only on these shifting aggregates, you will always be chasing, never resting. But when you see clearly, you enjoy what comes without being enslaved by it. You taste joy without fear of losing it. You embrace life without demanding it last forever. This is the art of living in freedom. The Buddha never asked us to run away from life. He asked us to see life clearly, so we can live fully. To live fully means to love without clinging, to work without being consumed, to rest without guilt, to suffer without despair. And the key to this art is wisdom, the wisdom that the self is not a fixed thing, but a flow. That the aggregates are processes, not prisons. So, the next time you look in the mirror and notice a wrinkle, smile. Say to yourself, "This is form, it changes." And that's okay the next time you feel lonely. Acknowledge, this is a feeling, it arises. It passes. It doesn't define me the next time you argue. Remember, this is perception, it's conditioned, not absolute truth the next time anger floods your mind. Step back. This is a formation. I can choose whether to feed it or let it fade. And when awareness itself shifts, when your mind feels clear one moment and cloudy the next, whisper. This is consciousness, it's a stream, not a solid self. In practicing this way, life becomes lighter. You stop fighting the changing tides and start flowing with them. You stop clutching at permanence and start embracing impermanence. You stop defining yourself by temporary states and start discovering a deeper peace within them. And here lies the most profound gift of the five aggregates. They don't just explain who you are. They free you from who you think you must be. You are not your bodies, though you care for it. You are not your feelings, though you experience them. You are not your thoughts, though you think them. You are not your consciousness, though you are aware. You are more spacious than all of these. You are the freedom to observe, to grow, to awaken. My friend, if you take only one thing from this teaching, let it be this. You are not trapped in who you think you are. You can change. You can let go. You can be free. Thank you for spending this time with me, for opening your heart to reflect on life through the lens of the Five Aggregates. If these words touched you, if they gave you even a spark of peace, I invite you to stay with us. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss future talks and reflections. Share this with someone who might be struggling. They may need these words today more than you know. And most of all, keep practicing. Keep breathing. Keep discovering who you truly are, beyond the labels, beyond the aggregates. Because freedom is not somewhere far away, it is right here, waiting in this very moment.